Hey everyone, I'm assuming we're live because I hit the button. So we're getting going. We're back with me, Dio, and this week we got uh, the creator of, I mean, just a great comic, Jupiter.
Thank
We
you.
got yeah, Jason Sandberg with us. He's just gonna join us and chat, and we're gonna get into the usual stuff we do, which is wherever the wind blows. So.
Tangents aplenty.
Yeah. But the first thing we're going to start with is, we want to talk about your comic and,
Mhm.
where people can find it and let me gush over parts of it and that sort of thing. So go ahead and let everyone know about your book and what's going on with that, where they can find it.
Yeah. So basically, Jupiter, the campaign launched in May. I think it was May of 2023, and it was a short 110-day campaign between launch and fulfillment. It's 40 pages full color, and in the subsequent months, I've been continuing to kind of get the word out, kind of build up the readership, and we recently crossed 10K on Indiegogo. So that's a good milestone because it shows that there's interest in the book, and I'm currently working on issue 2. So my hope is to continue to spread the word about issue 1 so that people get it in their hands, and then they're more apt to look for issue 2, which will be launching later this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's on Find My Comic and Indiegogo. Indiegogo is where I'm pushing. I was pushing most of the traffic to try to get over that magic 5-figure milestone, just
Yeah.
solely for the bragging rights and to kind of shine a light on the book.
And I do have it linked in the description if anyone's interested, and in the chat if you're here on the chat, which looks like we got super awesome cool dude is in the chat. No, wrong one, says boop, so that's good.
Boop.
Yeah, we got that linked in the chat, and we got Dio's comic as well on Find My Comic. So if anyone wants to go check those out, I saw you. I think it was on John's Long Box talking about you have earlier Jupiter stuff as well, right?
Yeah, so Jupiter, I published it as a black and white self-published indie in the 1990s. It went from 1998 to 2000, got out 9 issues. It was distributed through Diamond, and it was one of those. It was obviously a terrible. It was like the worst time for the direct market, notoriously dismal. Um, and it was that cliche, critically acclaimed, poorly marketed, poorly advertised. I was on a shoestring budget, so basically the sales never went down on the first iteration of Jupiter. Everybody who bought it loved it, and by and large, it's hard to find in the back issue bins because people, they held onto it. They don't want to give it up, but because of the nature of the direct market, it was hard to get retailers to give it a shot because it was such a quirky book.
Yeah.
And so the sales never went down, but I couldn't move the needle. And Diamond really liked the book, and they kept, they said, hey, we're going to keep letting you distribute it because we believe in the book. That there's a place for this book, and they would work with me, and they'd say, okay, Jason, give us an extra 1,000 copies and like bag them with like a letter, and we will route them to the 1,000 stores that sell the most copies of Cerebus. And then another month we would say, hey, we're going to give these free, basically, with an appeal letter to the top 1,000 stores that carry 8-ball. And we did our due diligence, but we just could not move the needle. So at that point, it was like by issue 9, I'm like, hey, I'm in my late 20s now, and there's things you have to do in your 20s and 30s that you can't do. You can't go back in time and redo them, right? So I'm like, I'm going to take the message. I'm going to hit pause on this. So I kept reading comics, kept going to my LCS, worked on some other art stuff, but I said, you know what, this comic book thing didn't work out. And then flash forward to like 2018, 2019, and I see what's happening with the crowdfunding model. And there, I obviously immediately realized that that crowdfunding is more direct than the direct market because you're going directly to customers. So retailers, they have to be cautious because they've got brick and mortar overhead. But with the direct market, people are more likely to take a risk on something new, something unproven, and you're not having to convince a retailer to get to the readers. You're going right to the readers. So I said, you know what, I still love this medium. I still want to do this, and that's started the ball rolling. Which brought me up to 2023 when issue 1 launched. And for those of you that read, anybody out there watching who read Jupiter in the 90s, it's got the same tone, same atmosphere, but and there's some background characters that are the same, but this is all new material. And those of you that didn't read Jupiter in the 90s, don't feel like you have to go back and read that old stuff. This is all new stuff, and it's a fresh start for everybody. But each issue is going to be at least 40 pages. The first issue is 40 pages. That's currently in demand, and then right now I'm working on issue 2. And I'm thinking it's either going to be 44 or 48 pages. So again, it's going to be a hefty chunk of material. I would rather put out a 40-page book every 2 years than a 20-page book every year. Because I want people to have a good reading experience, a full reading experience, versus kind of just churning out 20-page installments.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at right now.
The format of the Jupiter #1, the new one, you have the main story, and then you have the oh man, my mind just went blanking. What's the backups called?
The placebo addiction.
Yeah, and then the quiet dream, the thing where the little kids at the. But do the old issues follow that same format?
Yeah, the ones in the 90s had I had an ongoing story called Pelasgus, which was a sci-fi. It was like a sci-fi. It was a sci-fi world building experiment that was like the ongoing through line of the series. And then there would be a 10-page short story. It would be self-contained. Sometimes it would be like a parody piece. Sometimes it'd be kind of a superhero story. But so the book was split between the through line and the short stories. And then I would also have those placebo addiction backup stories. Yeah. And the placebo addiction stories, let me flip over here. I'm going to scroll over here. What I would do is I would basically say the placebo addiction, this is a current iteration of it. It's basically Cubist comics. It's comic books that can be read left, right, up, down, out of order. And typically there's typically two panels that are associated with each other. The intent is to allow for cubism and free association and a bit of surrealism. And when it's my hope is that when I'm like 80 years old, I'll publish a book of all the placebo addiction strips, and it's going to be this crazy artifact. It's going to be a crazy artifact where you could read it any which way. You could shuffle the pages up, and it just kind of puts you. Tom Tuttle, he was on the Friday Nights last night. He described the placebo addiction as little idea islands, like a little archipelago of little ideas you can hop around on, and think of it as like mood music or a thought piece versus like a linear comic book. So Jupiter has like super heroics. It's got kind of a melodrama. It's got serious stuff, but it's also got these kind of jazz pieces, and that's particularly the placebo addiction short strips.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those I really enjoyed those. Like when I was I don't know if you're out loud laugher when you're reading things.
Sometimes
I am, and when I got to the Art Bell, I started cracking up. I thought that was the funniest thing. Like my wife, I showed her. She's like, "What are you laughing at?" She did not didn't get it, but I like the overall tone of the book, like the placebo addiction. How you said it. There's like a kind of a through line to the whole page, even though only two of them are really connected. But the
Right.
whole book is like that, where you're reading something in the front, and you see something in the background, and it connects to something that happens in the ad
Yep.
on the back. It's just
Yep.
I gotta ask, how long did it take to get all those connecting pieces?
So because so I keep like a notebook,
Mhm.
and so the big story of Jupiter, the big story in the new version of Jupiter, the big story, the through line with the family and the let's see, flip over here, this family here, and their so this family here, their story, I started writing in 2018,
Mhm.
and I I know what's going to happen to them, and I know the journey that they're going to take, and I know all of the pivots and the quantum jumps in in the drama and the stakes. I know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
and because I don't have a monthly deadline, I can think about it, I can map it out, I can make it so that you do not know what's going to happen. I guarantee you do not know what's going to happen, but it's going to feel very organic because I'm not having to rush the story. I'm not having to meet like a monthly deadline. So I'm playing that to my advantage. But because I get basically like a 18 months or a year or whatever to make each issue of Jupiter, I can I can thread things through and I can notice patterns, and I can surprise myself with patterns. I can build in patterns. And
Yeah.
that's part of the it's part of like the overall experience. I want it to be this experience where my hope is that when people get an issue of Jupiter, they're like, okay, I'm going to put on some Miles Davis, Beethoven, Frank Zappa. I'm going to sit back in my comfortable chair. Don't bother me. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to experience this 40-page comic and go into that, go into that experience.
Yeah.
That's my hope. That's my absolute hope. Now, I do love superhero comics that are
Mhm.
just a bunch of guys punching each other. And I like sci-fi and western stuff like that. Um, there's a place for that. There's a place for like the roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And the kind of the I just need to escape for 15 minutes and read an Avengers comic from the 80s. That's a fantastic experience. But my hope is that the people that who connect with Jupiter, they want to sit there and they want to live with it for a half hour and just kind of weave in and out. And like you said, they're going to see things that remind them of stuff in the earlier, the themes repeat, and there's a richness that's not hitting you over the head, but you kind of it gives you a little, it makes you crack up a little bit. But I want this vibe. I want this vibe to be there when
Yeah.
people read it. Now, hopefully most people will catch on to that and enjoy it. There's going to be some people that read it and they're like, kind of like the art, kind of things need a story. It's not going to be, not everybody's going to have that experience, but my
Yeah.
hope is that enough people have that experience that they keep coming back and they see them trying to make something special.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It really, it is something special. Like I read it, and I think I read through it 3 times, and um, and I made the short trailer,
Uh-huh.
the review video
Thank
for
you.
it, and but just going through it for that as well, and seeing more and more each time, it really is a, a lived experience. Like there's just different little things in every page you see, and that connect to, and yeah, it was really fun. It's a really fun book.
Thank you.
And the what's Klein bottle? Is that how you say it?
Captain Kleinbottle. Yeah. Let
Yeah,
me scroll in here. I'll find some Captain Kleinbottle for you.
I
So,
love I love the the eras that you put him in, and how he changes.
so for those of you watching, Captain Kleinbottle. So in the world of Jupiter, there aren't in the main world of Jupiter, there aren't traditional superheroes. There's only superheroes in comic books. And my book Jupiter is going to be the story about this world's first, only, and greatest superhero. And it's this young lady here. And we'll get more. I can get more into what's going on with her, but basically, she is going to become the superhero for this world, right? So it's a ground floor experience. I get to do the world building, but in their world, the only superheroes are in comic books, and most particularly Jack Kirby comic books. In the world of Jupiter, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon had mainline comics in the 1950s. Their distributor deal didn't fall through, so they continued to do mainline comics. And mainline comics had four titles. There was a war book, a Western book, crime book, a romance book. There was a fifth book called Captain Kleinbottle, and it was basically started like as an astronaut story, right? Kind of like Sky Masters of the Space Force. But because in the world of Jupiter, mainline comics didn't go out of business, Jack Kirby continued to work for himself and benefit from his own work. Never had to go back to Marvel, never had to go back to DC. And so this character, Captain Kleinbottle, which started out like a story of an astronaut, he becomes a superhero. And all of the zany creativity, all the madness that Jack Kirby basically gave away practically for free to Marvel and DC in the 60s and 70s goes into this Captain Kleinbottle title. And Jack Kirby is like a revered Walt Disney type character. There's like amusement parks, there's movies, all this kind of other stuff like that. So I get to give Jack Kirby his happy ending.
That's awesome.
As a fan of his. But also it allows me to spend a couple pages in each book of Jupiter where my characters will read a Captain Kleinbottle story. So it's this touch point that it's going to guide my character towards becoming a superhero. Because if you get superpowers, it's not a foregone conclusion that you become a superhero. You know, there's nothing forcing your hand, right? Due to some things that happen and the inspiration for Captain Kleinbottle, she's going to take that journey so that it's going to become a ground floor superhero book. But Captain Kleinbottle is going to be that guidepost. The other thing is that I realize that because I'm starting from a nominally normal world, a normal world where an event happens in this first issue that kind of opens up a world of mysticism and dragons and all that kind of crazy stuff and aliens. In order to make it a natural arc, it's going to be in some sense pedestrian. It's going to be kind of boring, right? So as I was putting together the first issue, I'm like, where am I going to have the action? Where am I going to have the car chases? Where am I going to have the adventure, right? Because I've got this normal family, something crazy happens, they respond to it within it starts around our journey. But then I realized, my God, I can put the chase scenes and the shootouts and the adventure in the Captain Kleinbottle segments. And that way the reader has that, they get those scratches itched, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why every issue is going to have some pages of Captain Kleinbottle. The second issue, which I'm working on right now, has I think like a 10-page fight scene with Captain Kleinbottle in it. So you're gonna flip when you read that. In subsequent issues, as her journey progresses and she actually steps into the role of being a superhero, and there's threats on her doorstep, the Captain Kleinbottle segments in the main story will shrink a little bit, but then I'll put Captain Kleinbottle in some backup stories and stuff like that. So everybody gets a little bit of both, but I'm certainly using it as a tool to add spice to the soup.
Nice. No, the amount of world building that you got with all the Kirby like lore back, the you putting the comic in the middle of the comic was, so, you know, the 1984, when you're reading the book and all of a sudden he starts reading an entirely different book and you're reading that for pages, that jumped into my head when I was reading. It's like, you know, that amount of world building and like, this is a real a real world that I'm stepping into. It was brilliant. I loved it.
The conceit of Captain Kleinbottle is that because Jack Kirby only had one superhero title, he had Captain Kleinbottle go through different phases in his career where he's like using different gadgets, and he's got like different roles and stuff like that. And because he's an astronaut, you find out in issue 2, because he was an astronaut, President Kennedy had him go on this special mission, and he got dislodged from time. And when he crashed back on Earth, he knew who killed Kennedy, and just all this kind of crazy stuff happened. You're gonna find out in issue 2, but because he's had these different roles in his career, I can tell these different stories from different parts of his career. Sometimes he's got a ray gun. Sometimes he's got a bubble helmet. Sometimes he's a street level vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he's like an admiral in a space armada, that type of stuff. It's an infinite canvas, and the through line is just that he's the same guy, and his timeline's looped. So as he's confronting an adversary, he's already defeated the adversary before. So it's a bit like Frank Herbert's Kwisatz Haderach, where Paul Atreides can see all the possible futures outcomes of a battle, so he can maneuver and make the right tactical decisions, right strategic decisions. It's a bit like that, but it's funny because he's incredibly cocky. So as I tell the Captain Kleinbottle stories, it's going to be a fun challenge for me to find out how can I blindside this character. If he's confronting somebody he's already defeated, he remembers defeating them because his timeline is a loop. How am I going to throw him a curveball? So stay tuned, and let's see if I can get myself out of that trap.
Yeah, I didn't realize. So the last, I guess, pseudo ad where he's yelling at the old lady and she's yelling at him, that's in your history. That's also Kirby doing that, writing that story.
So that free fall character, that's my street level. That's my that's like my Spider-Man, like my John Romita Spider-Man analogy. That character is going to be continued. That character has an arc. Expect to see about 3 or 4 pages in each issue of Jupiter, and the rhythm to that character story, Freefall. He's a friend of Captain Kleinbottle's, but the rhythm of his story is his relationship with that lady. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to have this relationship between like a curmudgeon lady and a superhero. And she's the lady's pretty much the get off my lawn personality, and you're going to see him and her kind of mix it up. And I think there's going to be 7 or 8 installments of that. But when it's done, it's going to be a good like 25-page story of their on again, off again friendship. And so let's stay tuned. But in each of those free fall stories, I'll put in some fight scenes and stuff like that just to make it more fun.
All right. If anyone's watching and you're so confused about what we're talking about, but you're intrigued by how excited I am about it and how excited Jason is about it, go get the comic for real. It is fantastic. It's smart. It's bizarre. It's so many. It's so many pop culture like things mashed into something that just really hits you in the right place. Like it scratches all kinds of itches. But have you gotten a chance to read a deal?
I haven't, but it's been on my list. It's definitely something I'm going to be picking up, man. It sounds awesome. It sounds like you've also written a story that keeps you interested in drawing it with all the different aspects of Kleinbottle that you can, the different variations. So it sounds like something that you're super passionate about. So I'm stoked to check it out, man. I'm definitely it's on my next book to pick up list. And your campaign is still open, correct?
Yeah, it's in demand on Indiegogo.
Okay.
Order ship the following day. It's $13 and then $5 for shipping and handling in the United States. And order ship the following day.
That's
We
not bad at all.
just cracked 10 figures or 10K what about like a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Congratulations. Yeah, I saw that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. The book has definitely been on my radar because I've heard nothing but good things about it. So, and
Thank
then
you.
talking to you and hearing you speak about it tonight has just sold me even more so on it. So, yeah, I'm stoked, man. What a great premise, dude, and a great world you've built.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
This
see,
go ahead.
ahead. I was just saying, like you and the other people we've talked to you, but like the excitement that the indie creators have for their own worlds they're building is fantastic. It's one thing to be hired by one of the big, big two, and that's exciting. Oh, we get to write, get to do Spider-Man.
It's not what it used to be.
Yeah, that's true. But that's not yours. That's not your baby.
Yep.
It's like being a grandparent and having the grandkids over. That's fine for a minute, but you can go home now.
Yep.
If it's your kid, you're invested. You got to raise them right. You got to do the right things, and I like that the excitement's just coming off you. It's great. But the with, like I said before, just the it seems like you pull a lot from a lot of different places. What were the things that kind of I see in some of the placebo addiction. I see the Monty Python shorts, animated shorts.
Yeah. Yep.
I see that in there, obviously. But
I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna make sure the audio doesn't go.
All right.
Just to give people something to look at here. Oh shoot. All right, there we go. Just people watching animation. So this the trailer is stuff from the book. It's my art from the book. So that was a lot of fun to learn. I got to learn how to use Adobe Animate. So in terms of inspirations, like it basically goes Jack Kirby, John Byrne, John Buscema, Mobius, Robert Crumb, Rick Veitch, some Dave Sim. Throw that all in a blender. You throw that with some other stuff, and that's kind of all the stuff that gets me excited. There's one of my favorite series was Scott McCloud's Zot. Are you familiar with it?
You, for whatever reason, you buffered on my screen. What was it again?
So one of my favorite series is a series by Scott McCloud. It was from the 1980s. It was called Zot. Are you familiar with it at all?
No.
So he was heavily manga influenced. He was one of the first artists one of the first American artists to wear the manga influence on his sleeve. And it's a story of a teenage superhero. So great series. I highly recommend it. It's like there's like 30, 35, 37 issues of that. The first 10 were in color, the rest were black and white. Strongly recommend Zot. But I draw a lot of inspiration from that. Just the positivity and the creativity of Zot. But there's obviously surrealist influences. There's French heavy metal, the Metal Hurlant influence, and then good old classic Silver and Bronze Age comic books, which I still love them. I love, obviously, huge affection for Jack Kirby. So those are all inspirations that are that I'm drawing on.
So when I started really getting into comics, it was the 90s. It was the Jim Lee, Liefeld stuff, and looking at the Kirby stuff, I was like, it's boring or whatever. I can tell you now, in the past few years, anytime I see a something drawn by Kirby, I'm like, I get it, like 100%. He is a genius. The colors he used, the shapes, the dynamic, poses, everything that it's just like, I get it now. I was a fool before.
Well, it's the thing is, so the first comic book I got off the stands was Captain America 214, which was drawn by Jack Kirby. I had no idea who he was. Had no idea that was his last issue of Captain America either. I mean, there was no context for it. But I was intrigued because of the dynamism. It was like the images were like popping off the page, and for me it was this kind of magic trick. Like how is this guy on a 2D plane making something like seem like it's alive, and how is he making it like jump off the page, and how am I sensing movement and action and so forth. So that sparked my my interest in the comic book medium, and then Jack Kirby in particular. But I totally understand that if you're seeing Jim Lee and the because Jim Lee is like towards the Neil Adams side of the formal illustration. If you see Jack Kirby, which is more towards the cartoonist one, it's like, well, this isn't impressive the way the Neil Adams Jim Lee is. And it's not till later when you realize, okay, this guy's got a visual vocabulary, right? He's got these shorthands. Like I've looked inside of an engine. It never looks like what Jack Kirby's tech looks like, right? But when you see Jack Kirby tech, even if it's drawn by John Buscema or Sal Buscema, you know what it is. And it's like, that's like machinery. That's what a computer looks like. Now, I've looked inside a computer. It's not what it looks like, but it's that shorthand, and it's like, and your brain fills in the gaps, and it just becomes this geometrical shorthand. And so it's more towards cartooning. And then when you begin to get an appreciation for the storytelling and just the fountainhead of ideas. I mean, the guy was like coming with ideas on every page. I think that's where the appreciation sinks in. But on first blush, I can understand how someone who's into the Jim Lee X-Men could be like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah. When you started with in comics, the Jupiter, back in the was it mostly, what writing inspired you besides, the comics side?
So the first indie comic I ever bought was Nexus #2, the color Nexus #2 by Mike Baron and Steve Rude. And that was because obviously I've been reading Marvel comics for like 5 years at that point. That was a revelation to me. And I was, say, 11 years old or something. How old was I? Yeah, I was like 11 years old, 11 or 12 years old. Bought it off the newsstand, and Nexus #2. I'm like looking at it. I'm like, the artwork is better, the paper's better, the coloring's better, the writing's better, the ideas are better. This indie comic book is better than anything that Marvel or DC are putting out. So it's a paradigm shift in my head. So Mike Baron and Steve Rude, the Nexus is the GOAT of indie comic books. And if you haven't read Nexus, start with issue 1. You can get the Dark Horse omnibuses and buckle in.
Yeah.
Mike Baron puts more novel ideas into a 20-page story than most writers can do in 20-page stories, right? And Steve Rude's artwork is classically just beautiful. Everything is just right. That's always been like the North Star. Nexus has always been the North Star. Like this is the best that an indie comic can be. So just do your best to like live up, try to follow in that direction of I want to bring to the best of my ability. I want to bring the best ideas, the best production value, the best artwork as possible to the form. So that started me on indie comics. So I read, I was there at the beginning of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was reading Cerebus Monthly, everything from Fantagraphics, so I was all there through I was buying more indie than I was mainstream all through the 80s and 90s. So that was my incubator in terms of what the art form can be. And I think if there was a way to describe Jupiter, it would be it would be like 8 Ball, but 8 Ball, but it's like 8 Ball, but by somebody who doesn't hate humanity, right? Dan Clowes, incredibly pessimistic. I think his soul is ugly. He's an ugly, despicable human being, because of how much he despises humanity. Can't see the beauty in anything, and is vicariously cruel. Right. So sometimes Dan Clowes would do something that was satirical. By and large, I think he's a horrible human being. Um, just based upon, I've never met him, but based upon his artwork and his critique of humanity, just a despicable human being. So Jupiter is like that kind of one-man anthology comic, but by someone who is optimistic, loves humanity, thinks mankind has a fantastic history and a bright future. That's the that's where I'm coming from. I sometimes describe Jupiter as the other kind of OMAC, the one-man anthology comic. So you can take that as a direction.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, after reading it, a lot of thinking. I go back in a couple pages and just kind of go over them again and again. But also, it did. I just felt good. I felt good by the end of it. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. There's gonna be threats, there's gonna be stakes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I do believe in heroism. I believe in heroism, broadly defined. And comic books, if anything, are modern folklore, modern myths. So sometimes they're corny, sometimes they're straight from the gut. But I do believe that their contribution is to create modern myths, and particularly, most importantly, to define and celebrate heroism.
Nice. Yeah. I like that that's part of your actual story as well. So that comes through with comics. We talked a little bit in here about music as well, and you mentioned earlier Zappa and I forget a couple other things, but like how much in the music side of things did the play an inspiration to your thought processes in this?
So I'm a big Frank Zappa fan, and so there's and granted, if those people who are into Zappa, there's sometimes you have to take it a song at a time, because sometimes an album will have two or three songs on them that shouldn't be on the same album together, right? But I love his big band, the Grand Wazoo era. Love most of the '70s stuff. I love the basically the independent creator, the ability to have like complete editorial control, and to kind of do wild, outrageous stuff. But I like the ability to have a 10-minute song, right? I mean, that's so Zappa would have a 10-minute guitar solo, 10-minute songs. He would do some chamber music. He would do some jazz music. It's not unusual to have a 10 or 12-minute song, so you really get immersed in it, get into this kind of meditative state. So he's influential. He was influential on me in terms of just the ability to pull from different musical genres and kind of mix it up. And then being from Minnesota, obviously, bands like Husker Du and the Replacements and Bob
Yeah.
Mould, that's kind of like that's in my DNA as well. There's a bit of punk I got some punk in my heart. I'll never be able to shake that. So that's also an inspiration.
That seems to be a through line with so far everyone that's come on here, is that punk influence seeps in somewhere along the way. And I think that that whatever that mindset is that gets people into that brand of music lends itself to wanting to be in the indie comics scene.
it ultimately it was DIY, and
Exactly.
if indie comic books are indie comic book creators or anything, it's do it yourself. So
Yeah, and it's that also that thing of hearing somebody who sometimes can't sing well and thinking I can do that.
That's awesome.
I love, like, just as a tangent, I love Rob Liefeld as a personality and as
Mhm.
someone who loves comic books. I think he's great energy, great booster for comic books. But the way I've described it in the past is, there's a certain group of people, where, and it might be in, like, in your age group, where Jim Lee made everybody want to draw comic books, and Rob Liefeld made everybody think they could draw comic books.
Yeah, I was I bought the Young Blood #1 and all that stuff, but it didn't last too long with me. The Liefeld stuff, the proportions of the body, the perspectives and stuff. It's fun to flip through, and like he's got just explosive pages.
Mhm.
But
I the way the way I describe Rob Liefeld's artwork is, he's trying to take the energy and the immediacy of a doodle, of a sketch, of a doodle, of a thumbnail. He's trying to take that visceral power of it, and he's trying to put a sheen of finished line work over it. And so, and like, when I look at him, like, I know what he's doing, and I can appreciate it at a certain level, but I think he gets picked on because people think that he's trying to illustrate when he's actually cartooning.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a different beast. It's a different beast, but certainly, I think it made it made a certain skill level um accessible, or commercial. And I think that I think there are too many imitators, too many inadvertent imitators of Rob Liefeld's work. I wish they had been trying to imitate, like, John Buscema or John Byrne. They would
Yeah.
I think the world would have been a better place if there had been fewer Liefeld clones. But I don't think we should do anything with Rob Liefeld. I think he's a wonderful guy, and
yeah,
let's hope he keeps putting pen to paper.
yeah. His anytime he's got one of his podcasts out, I'll give it a listen. He's just
Oh yeah.
so infectious with his excitement, and a person who can talk nonstop for that is
Yep.
fascinating to me.
No, I like listening to his podcast, and he is the guy you will love sitting next to in school lunch, right? He's the guy you love. So yeah, he's a great character, great character, great soul, and I get a kick out of listening to him as well.
Um, yeah, I mean, the Liefeld, the Jim Lees, it wasn't long before I kind of moved into the Hellboy. Mignola
Mhm.
kind of took me that little sidestep into the indie stuff. Milk and Cheese and
Yeah,
Usagi Yojimbo and those things started catching my attention, and the indie scene now is exciting. It's fun. I'm only tangentially part of it because I just kind of do a couple of review videos now and then, it is a cool scene right now. I'm really digging it. It's really exciting. And
there's there's so many quality books, and I've met, since I started making the rounds, I've met so many great people, and it's one of my theories is that the the crowd the crowdfunding. So one of my theories is that the crowdfunding model is inadvertently making the North American comic book market pivot towards the European model. And in the European model, there's a creator that you love, and once or twice a year they put out a hardcover volume of whatever they're working on, and you snatch it up, and it's $30 or whatever, but it's beautiful, and it's 40, 50 pages, 70 pages, whatever it is. And I think it's a change that needed to happen, but it was not in the best interest of Marvel or Marvel and DC to get away from the monthly model. And so I think with the crowdfunding, you've got I think we're moving towards that model, right? And there's people like Graham Nolan who are this is the Graham Nolan, Mike Barron. This crowdfunding indie thing has given them like a new renaissance, another. They're doing better now creatively and financially than they ever were before. And then people like myself are able to connect with readers and connect with fellow creators, and just the diversity of books between the westerns and the horror books and the sci-fi books and superhero books. It's just it's exciting. It's exciting to see what others are doing, and in just this creative space. I'm having a great time.
Are you backing in the indie scene versus going to your local comic shop, getting whatever's there? Are you still hitting the mainstream books up at all?
I go to my LCS every week, and typically what I'm buying from Marvel are like the Epic collections. And so everything that I buy from Marvel is stuff that was published 40 years ago. It's just in nice reprint format. And then basically when it comes to new stuff, it's typically like Dark Horse books or Image books. The things I'm most excited about right now are Ultra Mega. I'm greatly enjoying that. I think there's like 2 issues left of that. I'm enjoying Redcoat and Monstrous. Those are the books that I'm picking up regularly that are quote unquote new. And then everything else that I'm getting that's new is crowdfunded books. It's indie books that are and a lot of times it's people that are coming on the Friday show that I co-host, the Friday nights. So that's been fantastic to get to know creators where like I'm getting to kind of interview them as well. But yeah, it's about half of what I read is new indie stuff, and then the other half is classic Silver Age, Bronze Age Marvel reprints.
Nice, yeah. I'm the Ultra Mega's friggin' amazing.
Yeah,
like I read, I think the first volume, whatever, however many, I think 3 issues maybe collected, but it's like insane.
It's wild. It keeps getting bigger. It's like it's a great ride. I think there's 2 issues left,
and it's beautiful too. Like his stuff, and Daniel Warren.
Johnson.
Yep,
Johnson. Like that. There's an anime or manga inspired movement. The action lines and all that stuff. It's beautiful, and you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, how did he come up with this concept? But yeah, I love that one. But yeah, then all the indie stuff. There's so many I want to get and can't, because it is a little cost restrictive. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there that Dio's mentioning. He just got Wolf and Batsy, and I've been wanting to get my hands on some of those for a while. So, but yeah, a lot of them just smart, just interesting concepts and trying new things, and it's I wish I was rich, man.
I look at it this way. Like a lot of people right now, they're going to their LCS and they're buying 5 or 6 Marvel or DC books. They're spending $24-30 a week. They're bringing them home. They're not having a good time. I guarantee you they're not having a good time. And it's like, we need to find those people and say, hey, listen, instead of spending $30 a week on the stuff that's basically a postponed landfill, buy one, 25-page creator-owned book where the creator spent 6 months on it, lavished it with love and attention. It's 30, 40, pages. Do this because we're having so much fun. You're not having, I can see the looks in your faces over there. People reading these mainstream stuff. You're not having fun. I can tell. But yeah, you got a budget for it. Otherwise it gets out of hand. But I don't feel at all bad spend $20 a week on some indie stuff, versus, what I used to spend in days gone by on the mainstream.
Does your book have a digital version?
No, what I'm probably going to do is, so if there's anybody out there who's solely digital, on Amazon, Comixology is Jupiter Issue 0, which is a digital version of like the best of the 1990s Jupiter.
Oh, cool.
So if you're interested in my old work, you can get that, which is like I went through about 5 years ago, and I published it on Comixology, and I basically pulled out like the stuff that wasn't hard for me to look at, because obviously the work was almost 20 years old. So it's about half of those 9 issues ended up in that Jupiter Issue 0. That's available digitally. What I'll likely do is after issue 2 fulfills, sometime this year, I'll probably put 1 and 2 on Comixology, make it available digitally. But right now, not available digitally.
All right, yeah, no, I was just making a note to look up that stuff on Comixology, so we can see some of the 90s version. That'd be great. I don't know how much time you have tonight or whatever. I don't know if you're on a schedule, but we're almost an hour into this. But yeah, I mean, if you want to stick around, we're just talking about whatever. And let me actually close this down. I don't know if we need to put that on there anymore. There we go. But I was just wanting to actually just shoot the shit with you guys about a couple things. With Dio, for one. Did you get Wolf and Batsy? Is that what I read?
I did. Yeah, I just got it today. I got issue 10 and 11. So I definitely want to get caught up and buy the rest. But it was a fun little. It was gorier than I expected. But not in a bad way. Just because the characters are so cute, cutely drawn. But it gets but it's just a fun little just horror romp with 2 charismatic little monsters. Just doing fun stuff and essentially just going on a murder spree. But it's written well. It's illustrated well. It's just a fun story, man. Yeah, it was definitely an enjoyable story. I had drawn a piece when I first got the book, just because I was excited about it, or ordered the book, and then having it come today made me remember that I drew that stuff, because I was like, oh, this book is really fun, man. Yeah, so I definitely want to get caught up with issues 1 through 9, and then I guess he has, I think, 12 coming out, or 13, something like that, I think, coming up next. So. But kudos to Brian Baugh, man. It was a fun book. Definitely has me excited to read the other ones.
Nice. I just got what's the
excuse me,
Horace H. Hoover.
Oh yeah, how was that?
So far so good. I read the first, I guess, issue. I bought the collected version off of Amazon.
Oh, nice.
And it's I like he's very eloquent in his speech. Like he's when he's talking, it's you got Hellboy, who's just kind of grunting and kind of whatever, and then you got this guy who's the opposite end, where everything he says is it's almost too smart for the room, but it's fun. It's a lighthearted read for all the dark stuff that happens.
Oh, awesome.
But, I gotta get more into that, and probably do a review video for that. Is there anything you've been reading this week, Jason?
I picked up. So this is something I missed the first time around. It's a image title that Keith Giffen drew.
Hmm.
It's called Dominion. I saw that, I heard about this. I picked it up, enjoyed it. I'm going to hunt down the rest of them. And then back in the day, I would so Pacific Comics back in the 80s, they published Miss Mystic by Neil Adams and Captain Victory by Jack Kirby. In the back of those, I would see these ads for this Time Force, and I knew it was Rudy Nebris art, and I loved his work from Savage Sword of Conan. So just like a week or two ago, I hunted these down on eBay, got them. Greatly enjoyed it. It was only 2 issues, just beautiful art, full color. Enjoyed it. It was the series ended too quickly. Could have gone on longer, but got a good kick out of that. Here,
Did you get a good deal on them?
oh, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was I think it was like 10 or 12 bucks for the 2 of them.
Oh, that's not bad.
And then read issue 3 of Silence Do Good. This is a comic book by a guy named Salty Draws, and the premise is that in the dystopian future, a tech entrepreneur wants to create a virtual reality to basically kind of like the Matrix, but in order to flesh out the virtual reality, he wants to pull out the geniuses of the past, and he makes a mistake of kidnapping Benjamin Franklin. And Benjamin Franklin gets to the future and looks at what the guy's doing and says, "I'm not going to help you with this. This is tyrannical." And so Silence Do Good is Benjamin Franklin, and when he's in his 20s. And so he's Benjamin Franklin. He's not the elder statesman yet. He's more of the let's pick up some muskets and take care of set the world right. So it's a good series. I highly recommend it. And then obviously I've been reading Redcoat. If you haven't picked up Redcoat before, pick up issue 8. This is issue 9. In issue 8, so the premise of Redcoat is that this guy inadvertently becomes an immortal, and he's a scoundrel. He's a British soldier during the Revolutionary War, so he's a bad guy, right?
Mhm.
But he inadvertently becomes an immortal, and he's trying to figure out his place in the world and how to deal with it. In issue 8, he stumbles upon some hillbillies with axes, and there's some people who make a habit of ambushing ambushing lost people and like robbing them. They make the mistake of doing that to an immortal. I'm not going to tell you how that ends for them, but it's a good like standalone issue. And then this issue came out a few weeks ago. This is this Redcoat character. He meets the real life Johnny Appleseed. So I'm having fun with this series. Artwork by Brian Hitch, written by Jeff Johns. The good thing about this is you don't have to know anything else about this world. It ties into some of the what are they calling it? The Ghost Machine stuff.
Yeah.
I'm ignoring all the rest of the Ghost Machine stuff, but I am enjoying this Redcoat series. So I recommend it.
I read I think the first issue where he gets his powers. I think Benjamin Franklin's involved in that as well.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
But yeah, it seems really fun. So if down the road, Redcoat, gets wrapped up in other, like a crossover event, are you going to be?
Nope. they ain't getting my money. That's the other reason. Us indie people, we don't get ripped off by these crossover events. So those of you out there that are still mainstream comic book readers, they're ripping you off. Get away from them. And then this, I hunted this down. This is a Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan Superman story. It's a one and done prestige graphic novel. Highly recommend this. This takes place when before Superman shows up in Metropolis. He's kind of wandering the world, trying to figure out, he's just trying to study the world, figure out how he's going to use his powers. Great story. Highly recommended this. This was a lot of fun.
What was it? The Odyssey? Is that what it was?
Yep, the Odyssey. Yep, good little one and done. Highest recommendation.
I make notes of things that I want to check out that people. So far, most of them have been movies because I have a lot of movies I've missed watching in my life. But that Zot and that one are something I'm going to look up. At the very least, I can see if they have them online somewhere and check them out.
You'll thank me later.
But yeah, no, the what's the indie one you picked up before?
Redcoat or
Right before that,
it's here.
by
Sounds do good.
Silence Do Good. Yeah, that one I've seen quite a bit of the art and stuff. That one looks super fun.
Yeah,
but
if
again,
you
it's another one that's been on my list for a while.
yeah, it's a I will say he is a bit pricey. But if you like the Bruce Timm art style, I think he does. I think he's kind of in that space. I've got a soft spot for that Bruce Timm stuff.
Yeah.
And he's kind of in that niche. He's a good guy. Good. It's a good book.
Yeah, I was going to mention earlier the Steve Rude, how you were talking about his art is, it is beautiful. It is. I got kind of introduced to him through Mike Allred's Madman.
Okay. Yep.
And there was a little crossover thing, and the cover was Steve Rude, and Madman's Allred's pop culture, just and Rude's got a lot of that too.
Yep.
That pop culture, the dot matrix color, or whatever it is, and
the Band-Aid dots.
The introduction to that was like, okay, I see something great in here. So I searched out and read, I think, the first 2 collected editions, which I gotta get read some more of those. But super good, super smart. Yeah. Like I haven't seen where it goes. I just got basically to the point, spoilers everyone, where they learned that his powers come from dying stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to dig more into that.
Yeah, Nexus is a great title, and they one of the cool things about Nexus is that around Nexus, this whole civilization builds up on Ilum, the world that he lives on when he's not out doing when he's not out executing mass murderers and criminals. He kind of hangs out on this little kind of barren rock, and inside that world there's tunnels. But when he'd liberate like a detention camp, or he'd free a bunch of people, inevitably people would be like, we want to come with you. And so over the course of this series, it starts out with these kind of refugees hanging out with him, and he's like, just don't hurt each other. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I need to go recover from what I just did and deal with what I just did. But no one's going to hurt you here. And then it slowly builds up where there's like this whole entire community, and they have elections, and there's political intrigue, and there's scandals, and it just the richness of Nexus, the background characters, and the tapestry of the society that springs up around him. It's just amazing to see that kind of grow over the years. And in those first few issues, you've got no idea what they're gonna build, but it's a testament to Mike Barron, Steve Rude's creativity, that they were able to take this premise and build this entire world around it.
How was the?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have you read the last? I guess the last Nexus he did with Kelsey Shannon, or?
Yes. So Nexus Scourge, highly recommend that.
Awesome.
In a perfect world, Mike Barron and Steve Rude would keep doing Nexus together. They're working adjacent to each other, so they're telling each other what they're doing. But Kelsey Shannon was born to draw Nexus. He's a wonderful draftsman, but it's beautiful. So, and then Steve Rude just put out a graphic novel himself. I've got it back there. I haven't read it yet. So they're continuing to do Nexus books. But yeah, I highly recommend both of the most current projects.
It's incredibly interesting to me that and it's cool that Steve Barron's like, this isn't just me. this isn't just my creation. This is
Yeah.
our creation.
Yep.
He can do what he wants with it, but it's just very an interesting move,
Yeah.
to have two guys doing the same character, and they're not doing it together anymore. Like
those two guys. I mean, those two guys have known each other for over 40 years, and they've been through all everything the industry can throw at you. They've been through it, and they've each had their own personal life challenges in life, all that kind of stuff. And about a month ago, Steve Rude had Mike Baron on his show, and it's just like they're in a sweet spot. It's like when you see two veterans in the park sitting on a bench or playing chess, and they know how the world works. They've beaten the world, and they're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to say what they want to say, and they've been in the trenches together. It's just really cool to see.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good, and I hope and I'm looking forward to them continuing to put out the books that they want to put out and prosper from it. It's a good thing to see.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how two very different personalities work on the same, because they both know the character inside and out.
Yeah. Yep.
They both know where his motivations, where he's coming from, everything. But like, at what points are they gonna veer one way or the other?
So they are different personalities, but Mike Baron knows how Nexus works, and he knows why Nexus works. He's not going to break it.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with Steve Rude, right? So it's fun, and it's kind of it's akin to like, I'm not saying this is the case, but it's akin to if Nexus were public domain,
mm-hmm.
and these two high caliber creators were doing their own version of like Sherlock Holmes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do Sherlock Holmes, your version of Sherlock Holmes is going to be different from another person's, but you know how Sherlock Holmes works, and you're not going to break it. So it's going to be interesting to see, but they both have my full confidence. As a 40-year Nexus fan, they both have my full confidence and my money. Make more Nexus, I will send you my money.
Yeah, what worlds will each of them put the him in? That's where it's gonna. That's the only place it can differ. The Nexus is gonna be the stone. The world around them is gonna be the flowing river. The thing that's gonna change.
Yep.
The one thing that when I was reading Nexus that got me was the battle he had between, was he doing good
Mm-hmm.
and evil, and that content, that inner battle really started like, it's deeper than just hero.
Yeah.
It's deeper, and that was really interesting. I'm sort of trying to write a little story, and that's kind of the core of what I'm doing in my story, and I don't know. I hope I can get it that good.
Nice. Nice.
But
is it going to be a prose or a comic book, or what's it?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of Aztec mythology.
Okay.
Superhero kind of thing. Currently, though, I tell Theo this. I had a dream.
Okay.
The other day, involving Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm super excited about it. I'd never read the book. I just listened to the audiobook a couple days ago at work, and not what I expected. I don't know if you've ever read it or whatever, but it's, from pop culture references, you get this kind of idea of what it is about and how it's going to play out, and it's not that at all.
Okay, interesting.
No, it's a very short book.
Okay.
But it's who was the author? Now my mind's gone blank. Robert Louis Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up Calvinistic.
Okay.
And that battle between good and evil in man, the sinful nature, the God's image battling plays a big role in that book. And but it's just like you think there's going to be action.
So and I haven't read it. Like the sinisterness and the debauchery. What does Mr. Hyde do at night? Like, does he?
They don't touch on it. I mean,
okay.
So the main character of the story is a lawyer.
Okay.
Who's a friend of Dr. Jekyll, and he meets this creepy guy, Mr. Hyde. Okay. He's like, I don't like this guy. And then Dr. Jekyll says, I have a will, and in my will, I'm going to leave everything to Mr. Hyde. And he's like, okay. That's very weird. I don't like it. So the whole story is just like some run-ins with Mr. Hyde. And then, by the end of the story, Dr. Jekyll leaves a note. That's how you find out the whole plot ends up being wrapped up in a letter, where he says, basically, I created this serum to separate the bad part of me.
Okay.
And it turns out he took over, and the end.
Huh.
And so it's played up as this like horror thing, but I don't. You ever wonder about the mindset of people in the past where they were affected so much more by what we would consider less terrifying things than we are nowadays?
Yeah. So I see it on two levels. I see it one level of the cataclysmic level of I think about like Napoleon's army going through Europe, as raping and killing, right? I see that kind of calamity. And then I also see there's a transition from rural to urban. And so there's a point in just like European American history where everybody saw chickens being slaughtered. Everybody saw cows being butchered and things like that. So there's a certain level of gore that was commonplace. But then at a certain point, people moved into an urban setting, and then they started going to the butcher. And then to see an animal, to see that kind of gore was like, oh my gosh, this is so some of that trauma. I don't know when the division point was, where suddenly people became more like squeamish in the sense we understand it now. But then you add to that you mentioned the Calvinism. You add to that the social mores, and then when it comes to the Victorian era mores, if you took 100 people, were 3 people uptight like that, and the rest of them were like we are now, right? Where it's like boys will be boys, girls will be girls, and there's be careful, lock your door at night and stuff like that. I don't know if we'll ever know what the common experience was in terms of because there's an alternate reality where I'm afraid I've got some bad news about our friend Dr. Jekyll. Oh, really? Tell me more. He's been taken over by this man, Mr. Hyde. What's Mr. Hyde doing? Insider trading, or OnlyFans. What? So in terms of what's shocking and what's debauchery and so forth, short of like the 7 deadly sins or murder, what did Mr. Hyde do, right? So I see this. I see that it's nebulous, and and is that kind of the direction you were going, or is there something different you're thinking?
Well, to first the big thing that Mr. Hyde did was murdered somebody.
Okay.
So Dr. Jekyll talks about Yeah, when it gets turned up.
I'm squarely come down on that no murdering thing.
Yeah. But Dr. Jekyll talks in his letter to the main character. He's like, essentially, I have proclivities, but it doesn't talk about what he's into, what he's
Right.
going out and doing at night. I have proclivities, and I've tamped them down because I long for social status. I want to be. I have drive to be, well perceived, to be a great physician, to be seen as all these things. So I push those things down, and if there's a way for me to kill it off, so eventually he stomps a dude to the point where he's tired, like he wears himself out killing a guy.
Oh wow.
But it's not. I suppose that could be seen as when a reader back in whenever it was written in the 1800s would read that and think, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
But to me it's the the Hindenburg tape, and the way the reporter reports that story compared to
humanity.
Oh, the humanity.
Compared to nowadays where people could stand and like you watch people take pictures of like children being shot, and you're just like, why aren't you sad about this?
Yeah.
But like it's an interesting thing to me to read that old, to hear that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and I'm sitting there thinking it's interesting that I like the morality struggle in it, but it's not, it's not scary. It's not.
Yeah, it wasn't the horror. It wasn't the universal monster.
Yeah. It's so to me, it's just an interesting thing to think about how we're in a lot of ways desensitized to horrors, but like you said, at the same time, somebody cuts a chicken's head off and people can't handle it. That's just, something people did. I remember when I was a kid, I had a neighbor lady who had chickens in her backyard, and I'd go outside and she'd pick one up by the head and give it a good twist. It was just part of, just, oh, there you go. But that's not something people see nowadays, But we do see other things, on TV that are, as much as Twitter and, the whole free speech thing, I don't need to see some of the stuff that pops up.
Yeah.
Some of this.
Luckily, I've curated mine where I don't see just, just create. I mean, there was a point in time where I was just seeing, and I wasn't looking for it. It was just popping up, but I haven't seen any of that stuff in months and months and months. But yeah, you're right. You're just scrolling along. You're like, I didn't need to see a decapitation for, you know what I mean? Like I'm looking at a video of somebody talking about puppies 1 second. I think the algorithm was a little bit screwy where the next thing you see, just somebody's head lopped off. You're like, oh, that's great, dude. I'm good. I can go all day without seeing that stuff. So, but yeah, it's crazy. But
yeah, that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the dream I had was it's just the briefest thing, and it basically just the name Mr. Hyde popped up in it, and but it got me so excited about like I wrote like a little synopsis for a comic storyline, and decided, I probably should know what the story's about if I'm gonna, but it turns out it fits in pretty well with like what in my dream what was happening.
Okay.
So I'm debating, do I do that since I'm so excited for it right now, or do I get back to what I was supposed to be doing, which I've already written one issue, and
it's good too.
Gotta figure out what I gotta do, from then on.
Well, so what's the other project that you had started before? What's that?
That's the Aztec mythology.
Okay.
Story. Just not to give too much away, but there was a human sacrifice huge in the Aztec culture, but one of their particular yearly sacrifices was a not imposter, impersonator sacrifice.
Okay. Oh.
So they believe that if a person wore the clothing and garb of one of their gods, they would essentially become them. So I kind of like, well, that's a kind of a cool idea. So I kind of ran with that story. But you know, but that also deals with kind of the same issues of good versus evil inside you. You know, how do you deal with that battle? You know, and,
Your hide idea that you have seems like it could be like a one shot. You know what I mean? Where it seems like it could just be like like a one shot story.
yeah.
I don't know how many issues, but I think it sounds like it would have a beginning and an end. So just go ahead and bang that guy out, because I know you've done a lot of research for your Aztec stuff, which it shows, and the story's great. And that's going to be, I think, maybe a longer standing story. I mean, like Arvid said, I think last week, strike while the iron's hot, man. Just try to bang out that story while it's still, burning a hole inside you, so to speak. So it's a cool idea. It sounds fun.
Yeah. I mean, the only problem is I also took a break from that Aztec story to write another short one, a little 8-page thing that also, I don't want to be the guy who's just constantly excited about the next thing and never finishing.
Well, yeah, if you're inspired, get it down. Get it down on paper. Flesh it out as far as you can flesh it out. Because the worst thing is to like let it slip away, right?
Right.
And the other thing is sometimes you get it down, you get like the first draft down, and then you let it sit, and then when you come back to it, you can see with fresh eyes, and you can punch it up, or you can connect it with something else. I think the most important thing is if you're getting these sparks of creativity, just get it down. Just get a first draft down. That's all that matters. And that's what matters, right? That's what matters most, versus just letting it slip away.
Yeah. Have you ever, like, Jupiter's your baby, but is there any other things where you've been like, I have an idea for, like, it's just a straight superhero or whatever?
So the beauty of Jupiter is it's because it's an anthology comic. I can get all that in there, right? I could if I wanted to, I could start a 10-page mystery. I could do a 10-page mystery story. I could do anything. And so I kind of set out allowing myself to have that a big canvas, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to go off on, because in the creative space, in our creative space, there's some people that are like, I'm putting out a barbarian book, and then I'm going to put out a cape book, and so people are like, why I like the Western book, and I don't like this other. I like the sci-fi book. I don't like the Western book. So and so there's merits to both approaches. But with Jupiter, because it's a one-man anthology, if I get like what you're going through right now, where you've got these two competing pitches in your head, and these ideas you've got passion for, I've got a place to put both of them. So
Nice.
that's just the nature of having that one-man anthology.
I mean, that's a smart move. But Dio, Jason, have you gotten to read Tome of Reckoning at all? Have you?
I have not yet. I've been following Dio for a while now. I have not. We should have you on the Friday nights too, the next time. So Dio, help me out. Do you have anything in demand? Or are you between campaigns?
I have something in demand on I guess it's called Storefront on Fund My Comic. So
okay.
Issue 3 is on there right now. And then we're looking. Go ahead.
Is there a catch-up tier?
There is a catch-up tier. Yes, there is. There's a catch-up tier. It's got a trade of issues 1 and 2, and then the floppy of 3. And then as soon as we get the prints out, it's been a hellish time getting this one out. A lot of crazy stuff's happened behind the scenes. 1 and 2 went out without a hitch. 3 has been a little bit of a pain in the butt. But as soon as that goes out, then I'm ready to launch 4. I'm actually drawing 5 right now, and then 4 will be fully completed with the letters and all that stuff. So by the time I hit the go live button, it'll be ready to print as soon as everything's done. It's just this last one was between lettering and finance stuff and it's been a pain in the butt, and I feel really
Sure.
bad for everybody that pledged. But yeah, there is a catch up tier, and yeah, just working away on 5. The wifey is finishing colors on issue 4, and then we'll get that lettered as soon as possible.
So hit up Mad Ruth, Craig White, hit up Mad Ruth,
Okay.
and we'll have you on the Friday nights, and we can take a look at the book but
That'd
yeah,
be awesome, man. Thank you,
yep,
Jason. I appreciate
yep,
that.
yep.
But
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Dio, as you've mentioned before, you have like other. Do you have any? And I know you've said Tome of Reckoning's like your obsession.
Yeah, for sure.
But like other story wise, other stories. Do you have like anything that just kind of you feel like is gonna it has ever interrupted that flow?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've actually, I've luckily I was at a point where the Tome of Reckoning was pretty much figured out when a lot of those ideas hit. They might not have been fully written out like it is now, but yeah, I have other other stories that I'd love to do. One of them was actually stolen, and at least the premise was luckily and it was published, which sort of sucks. But they missed out on the heart and the real crux of the story, which is awesome because they weren't smart enough to pull that off.
What
not that I'm a smart guy. I'm just saying I'm dumb, but this person's dumber than I was.
what was it that someone jumped on?
I don't even want to say it.
Okay.
This is an ex-friend, but he's somebody who worked in the industry, who's done pro stuff for Marvel and DC. But it's just one of these things where if I even talk about it, if I ever saw the guy again, I'd probably knock him the fuck out.
Okay.
You
don't want to get on that roller coaster right now.
Exactly.
I understand.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, the premise was stolen while we were talking. Hey, what stories are you working on? Oh, I got this idea. And the next thing you know, a year later, I'm like, he's like, I got this book that I printed, my indie book. I'm like, oh, okay, let me check it out. And the premise, I was like, it's like the exact like opening lines of what I had said. But it's like I said, they really missed the most important part of it, which I'm still going to do the story, which is like a love story within this thing that I think pays off really well. So yeah, there's quite a few stories I want to do, and not necessarily draw them myself. But yeah, I definitely have other stuff. I haven't had anything really hit recently, which is a good thing, just because I need to finish these other books, the tome. But yeah, there's definitely other stories I'd love to do, like one shots, not ongoing stuff. Because I mean, as Jason I'm sure knows, and with your upcoming Aztec story, that just takes up so much of your time, where it's like, I just want to make sure the next thing I do, if it's anything that's not connected to this world, it's a one shot, and I can just get it done and just be like, okay, here it is, and not the labor intensive issue per issue, which I still love, don't get me wrong, but you know how it is. It's like, it's your baby. You just want to make sure that you're focused on that. But yeah, there's there's other stories I definitely want to work on.
To me, that's just an insane, like, that's a crazy concept to have somebody tell you something and you go, I'll do that.
Bro, it's unbelievable. And I had another buddy that worked on the colors for it, and I'm like, yo, dude, you don't remember me telling you this story? And he didn't, which I know he wasn't a part of that whole aspect of it. But the guy who said he wrote it and came up with the idea, I'm like, dude, you're a complete idiot. But yeah, it was published. They had meetings with Todd McFarlane and talked about stuff, and yeah, it's wow. Pretty funny, man. Yeah, I'll have to tell you behind the scenes one of these days.
Yeah. But like just the concept, I'd feel safe sending something to Jason to read of mine, just and this is the first time we've ever talked, but I know that Jupiter's your baby, right? Like, you're not out there looking to make a quick hit or whatever off of somebody else's idea, because you have something that you hold dear to yourself, and to have that mindset of just like, I don't have anything, so I'll just take
Yeah,
I think you nailed it too. Is where he has, Jason has something that he's a creator. You know what I mean? Some people are just, and there's nothing wrong with that either. A penciler or this and that, and have no ideas. And
Yeah.
I think that's why you can feel comfortable talking to, and the same reason I feel comfortable talking to you as well, Crenshaw, is that, I know you have your own stuff and there's some things that are, nothing's created in a vacuum. Other people can have the same idea, but this was literally like the same premise I was like, dude, I was like, what are you doing, man? You're such a pothead. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I know for sure, like, just, the Aztec mythology isn't as touched on as the Greek, the Roman, the Nordic mythologies, but it has been touched on here and there. And like Chuck Dixon, I watch his Ask Chuck Dixon show that's every Wednesday or whatever, and he talked about one of his characters and Tezcatlipoca, and I was like, oh, do I have to change everything? Well, no, it's the same. It's just the name.
It's like Hercules. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I'm curious to see what comes of that. And I think we need more of that. I think there's mythology from Africa and South America and that I'm an American, so I love the Greek and I love the Roman mythology and so forth. But I know it now. I know it. So and there's always a corner that's unexplored, but I think everybody would benefit from writers like breathing life into this, because it's part of our shared human heritage.
Yeah.
And there's always transcendent truths in there. And I think that we could benefit from just being exposed to it. So I encourage you to breathe life into this and get fresh eyes on it and add it to the collective consciousness.
Yeah. I hope I can.
You will, brother, for sure.
Like, I when I was young, I used to draw a lot, but never, but the writing thing kind of stuck with me. Never. So one of the things I'm afraid of, like I said, of the new exciting thing that I'm going to follow is that's how I spent my whole life. Like, there's a song by the Avett Brothers that's it's basically has the line is I've never finished anything. Why should I start now? Kind of thing.
Right.
And this comic idea is something I really want to wrap up. I really want to like work on it and make it something that I've actually accomplished.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just going to say that the time period that we're in right now, there's so much pressure on there's so much pressure on success early in life. And I think it's part of the background noise. The best summary that I've seen, and I can't remember who wrote it, but basically it was like, when you're in your 20s, you figure out how the world doesn't work. In the 30s, you find out when you're in your 30s, you figure out how the world does work. In the 40s, you find out what you're really good at. In your 50s, you make like a lot of money at it. And so I think that there's a lot of people who share what you just said, which is like, hey, I feel really bad. I haven't written a great novel yet. I haven't finished a novel. Well, it's like, you're not supposed to. And there's these freaks that can do it, right? There's these freaks who can write stuff in their 20s, and the rest of us are like, dude, that guy's a millionaire in his 20s. That guy's a millionaire in his 30s. That guy wrote a book when he was 25. That guy got a Nobel Prize when he was 22. and we're like, what's wrong with me? It's like, no, that's not how it works. Those are, you're able to see what's happening with the other 8 billion people on the planet because of the internet.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that's not the way the human mind progresses. The frontal cortex doesn't mature until you're like in your mid-20s, and we're having these guys go to college and make these life decisions when they're 22 and their brains aren't developed. And so I about 10 years ago I read that, and I'm like, that's so true. That makes absolute sense. So be forgiving of yourself where you're at right now, of like, hey, I haven't finished my novel. I haven't finished it. It's like, it's okay. It's okay. If it's your passion, and as you get more life skills and all that kind of stuff, it'll happen, right? And then so to take the pressure away.
Yeah. Well, that, and I'm not hoping to make billions. It'd just be nice to get that out. Just to get it out.
Yeah.
I talked to my wife, and like, oh yeah, she's like, oh, you writing? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, cool. And she asked, are these guys, these guys you talk to, like on X or on the YouTube, are they successful? I'm like, I would define successful. Like they're, I look at the guys who are putting out comics, and just the fact that they put out a comic to me is a great success.
Yeah.
Because it's, I understand it in my heart, like the desire to get something out, get it into someone, even if it's just one person, and they like it. And I back when I was young, trying to be in a band or whatever, I had to write some songs, and I wrote one that my brother took and recorded on a little EP he did, and he did a terrible job. I hope he never watches this. But to hear it on a CD it was rad. And so to me that's like, oh yeah, yes, they're successful in that, but at the same time, my love, I'm not going to make money on this. I'll tell you that right now, unless some freak accident happens and some producer's like, oh, I want to make this into a movie. I'm not trying to be rich off of this. This is, it's.
I think my opinion is if your intent is to quote unquote get rich, that's going to be where your focus is, not on doing something that's of quality and that you're having fun with, right? And so what, and this is just my opinion, what attracts people is craft and someone's having fun. And they're doing something interesting, and there's quality, and it's iterative, and it keeps getting better and better. And I think that's what draws in people, and then the money will follow or what have you. And so in terms of there's I think there's always that, like, that question, like, oh, are they successful? And you're right, they are, because they're being creative and people are responding, and in this very noisy world, we're connecting with people, with readers and things like that. And then the readers, 90% of them will show up again. And then in terms of like the long tail, more people will discover it, and it'll just continue to snowball. But the thing is, none of that matters if we're not having fun doing what we're doing, and the readers don't have fun, right? So that's how I define success.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that connection of having somebody, who likes your stuff, and you can actually interact with them, on X or, like this, it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah. We couldn't do this 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about the letters to the editor, in the old comics.
Yeah.
And which if you happen to get one published in a comic, you must have felt like a god,
I know.
like taking it to school and like showing everyone, whatever.
They gave me a no prize. Look at this.
That's awesome.
But and now it's not probably not as rewarding, I suppose, in a certain way, but maybe it's just it's a different kind of rewarding. Yeah. To be able to connect so immediately, like on X or whatever, and it's a great little community or whatever you want to call it,
For sure. Which brings back the whole punk rock feel too, man, for me.
There you go.
Like going to the clubs, it's like the old shows and hanging out and shooting the shit outside about the band you just watched or your band or your friend's band. So it's that whole punk rock aesthetic to this corner of the indie universe, which that I enjoy a lot, man. It's I'm not going out and throwing myself into the pit or jumping stage anymore at 48 years old. I probably would, but my wife wouldn't let me. I'm sitting out home and moshing with the kids. So and all you guys on X, which makes it's fun, man. It's a good outlet and it's cheaper. So yeah, for sure.
I agree.
But what time is it? 10:20. What time is it on your end of the world, Dio?
12:20.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's 11:20 here in Minnesota, so I think I do need to start to wind down.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a so Dio's a night worker.
Yes, for sure. I was actually doing a little bit of sketching while we're talking as well. So it's fun, man. It's like being in the bullpen, and working with the boys, which is awesome, dude. So cool. Yeah.
All right. Look, we got
DC Miller showed up.
ADC. Yeah, we're I don't know if you just showed up or if you've been watching, but we're wrapping up here in a minute. And but I just wanted to say thanks for coming on. And again, if anyone wants to get Jupiter, I have linked in the description of the show. And I think I have it linked to the Indiegogo.
Yep.
And you said it's on Fund My Comic as well?
It is. Yep. On both. Yep.
Right.
Can't wait to get hands on it, man. It sounds awesome, bro.
Thank you. So so Dio, hit up Mad Ruth and Crenshaw when you've got with whichever your projects goes live first or goes sign up first. Hit up Mad Ruth. We'll have you on the Friday nights. We have a guest on every Friday. It's 10 o'clock Eastern on Fridays, and we start the show by covering the 3 most important news items that were intentionally overlooked by the mainstream media. Topics like the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile crashing. There's a mountain in New Zealand that's been granted legal status as a person. We cover important news stories like that, and then we look at the creators' project so that the audience gets to know them a little bit before we go into the looking at the project. So we have fun every Friday night.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this up and say goodnight to everyone watching. We got, I guess, DC Miller, Levi Skeen also. Go grab Jupiter. Go grab Tone Reckoning. Head to TikTok or wherever. I got shorts. My little video reviews are out there floating around. And we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.
See you guys.
Thank you.